What if I told you that the most powerful transformation you could ever experience begins in silence? What if everything you've been searching for, clarity, peace, purpose, has been quietly waiting for you to notice, not outside of you, but within? Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers of the 20th century, understood something that most people never will. He knew that human beings are not merely creatures of flesh and bone, but vessels of something deeper, something ancient, mysterious and sacred. He called it the self, a divine center buried beneath the ego, the false identities, the masks we wear. And when you begin to uncover this self, when you realize who you truly are beneath all the noise, your life begins to shift in ways you can't explain. But here's the paradox. The moment you realize this secret, the moment your soul awakens to its true power, that's when you must stop talking, because some truths are too delicate to be exposed to the harsh light of public opinion. Some transformations are too personal, too sacred to be shared. In his work, Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what he didn't always say explicitly, what lies between the lines, is this: the path to becoming your true self isn't loud. It's not broadcasted, not shouted from rooftops, not posted online. It's quiet, it's internal, it's a revolution that starts in the dark, and once you've seen it, once you've felt the stirring of that inner knowing, the wisest thing you can do is keep your mouth shut. Why? Because the world isn't ready for your truth. Not yet. When you speak too soon, when you share your realizations with people who haven't even begun their own journey, you're met with resistance, skepticism, mockery, fear. Not because your truth is wrong, but because it threatens their illusion. And so Jung taught us this: protect your inner world. Guard your soul's awakening. Let the secret transform you silently from within. This isn't about isolation. It's about incubation. It's about allowing the seed of transformation to take root before the winds of the world have a chance to blow it away. So today, I invite you to pause, to listen, to remember that the greatest discoveries don't always need to be spoken. Let your life speak for you. Let your presence be the message, because once you truly know, once the secret is alive within you, you'll understand why silence is not weakness, it's power. And that's when everything starts to fall into place. Carl Jung's life's work revolved around a single extraordinary idea: that the answers we seek are not out in the world, but deep within ourselves. Most people spend their entire lives chasing meaning through careers, relationships, wealth, and status, only to feel a haunting emptiness when they finally arrive. They ask, "Why don't I feel fulfilled?" And the answer is simple: they've been searching in the wrong direction. Jung introduced the concept of individuation, a process of psychological and spiritual growth through which a person becomes whole. But it's not about becoming something new. It's about uncovering what was always there, buried beneath layers of conditioning and fear. When you begin the journey inward, you don't become someone else. You remember who you are. This inner knowing is not intellectual. It doesn't come from books, teachers, or philosophies. It arises quietly, like a whisper in your soul. And when it arrives, it changes everything. Your relationships begin to shift. The things you used to tolerate suddenly feel unbearable. You no longer seek external validation, because your worth comes from a place no one can touch. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. And here's the most fascinating part. Once you begin to live from this place of inner knowing, the outer world begins to respond in kind. You'll notice synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences Jung spoke of, happening more and more. You'll begin attracting situations, people, and opportunities that reflect your true self, not your mask. Because the universe, it seems, has always been waiting for you to show up as the real you. But there's a danger in this moment, a temptation that can derail the entire process, and that temptation is to share it, to tell everyone what you've discovered, to explain your insights, your breakthroughs, your truth. But most won't understand, not because they're incapable, but because they're not ready. They haven't done the inner work. And when you try to speak the language of the soul to someone who only listens with the mind, you're met with confusion or even hostility. Jung said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There's no recipe for living that suits all cases. Your journey is yours alone. Your knowing doesn't need to be approved, debated, or applauded. It only needs to be lived, so let the world wonder what changed. Let them see the calm in your presence, the clarity in your eyes. Let your energy speak for you. Because once you know, once you've touched that sacred, silent truth within, there is no need to explain. You've already become the message. There's a moment in every inner journey where you feel compelled to speak. You've had a breakthrough. You've seen something profound, and your first instinct is to share it with friends, family, the world. But Carl Jung cautioned us about this very moment. He knew that not every revelation is meant to be spoken. Some truths lose their power when exposed to the open air, and others are simply not ready to be heard. You see, when you awaken to something deeper, when you begin to peel back the layers of your own consciousness, you enter a space most people have never visited. You're no longer operating in the realm of logic and reason. You're stepping into the symbolic, the intuitive, the sacred. And when you try to translate that experience into words, something gets lost. The world is loud. It favors confidence over wisdom, noise over nuance. And when you reveal your inner truth too soon, you risk it being misunderstood, mocked, or minimized, not because it lacks value, but because it doesn't fit the common narrative. Jung understood this. He once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." But when the awakened speak to those still dreaming, the reaction is often resistance, not out of malice, but out of fear. People fear what they don't understand, and nothing is more threatening to someone still asleep than the quiet confidence of someone who has begun to wake up. That's why Jung believed in the power of containment. To contain your insight is not to suppress it. It is to protect it. Think of it like planting a seed. You wouldn't dig it up every day to show others. You'd bury it, water it, guard it, until it grows strong enough to bear fruit. Your awakening is no different. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your transformation. You don't need to defend your peace or justify your path. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. The most powerful changes happen quietly. They unfold in stillness, and when they're ready, they manifest not in what you say, but in how you live. So resist the urge to speak too soon. Let your presence carry the weight of your knowing. Let your actions reflect your depth. Let your silence become sacred. Because once you've tapped into the deeper layers of who you are, there's a quiet strength that begins to grow within you. And in that silence, you'll find something rare, something unshakable, true power. To fully awaken, you must walk through darkness. This is where many stop because it's not easy, it's not beautiful. It's not the part that gets shared in highlight reels or spiritual memes. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the unconscious part of yourself that contains everything you've denied, rejected, or refused to look at. Your fear, your guilt, your shame, your suppressed desires and unacknowledged wounds. And yet this is the very part of you that holds the key to your wholeness. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. You see, true alignment doesn't come from only embracing your light. It comes from acknowledging your darkness and integrating it. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. The shadow is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It shows you where you're not free. It reveals the chains you didn't even know were there. When you confront your shadow, not with judgment, but with compassion, you begin to reclaim lost parts of yourself. Energy that was once used to hide or suppress now flows freely through you. You become more whole, more present, more you. But here's where the alignment begins. When you stop fighting yourself, when you stop pretending to be only one side of the coin, you begin to resonate with life in a completely different way. You stop chasing, you stop performing, you stop needing others to validate your worth. Because you've accepted all of you, and from that place, you align with people, situations, and experiences that mirror your inner integration. This is not magic, it's resonance, it's vibrational law. The outer world begins to mirror your inner state. You've stopped pretending, so now the world stops pretending with you. You show up real, and reality responds in kind. But none of this can happen if you skip the shadow, if you try to leap to enlightenment without confronting the parts of you that are still in pain. Your growth will be shallow. Your peace will be temporary. Your alignment will be forced. That's why Jung emphasized the importance of individuation. It's not just spiritual discovery, it's psychological integration. The shadow is not something you conquer. It's something you dance with. You face it, you learn from it, and eventually you embrace it. And in that embrace, a deeper power emerges, a stillness, a confidence, a clarity. This is the silent alignment Jung spoke of, not perfection, but wholeness. And from wholeness, everything flows, not because you forced it, not because you spoke it into existence, but because you became it. Once you've done the inner work, once you've faced your shadow, once you've touched that sacred center within yourself, there is only one thing left to do. Nothing, not in the passive sense, not out of laziness or avoidance, but in the deepest, most powerful sense of surrender. Jung understood something that many miss, even after years of personal development. Transformation is not about constant effort. It's about alignment, and true alignment doesn't require pushing, striving, or controlling. It requires presence. The ego always wants to do. It wants to fix, explain, force, achieve. But the soul, the self, knows that real change arises from stillness. When you've planted the seed of inner truth, when you've watered it with silence and guarded it with your own integrity, then the wisest thing you can do is wait and trust. Because the universe doesn't respond to noise, it responds to vibration. When your inner state shifts, your reality doesn't need to be chased. It comes to you, naturally, effortlessly, quietly. Carl Jung once said, "In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder, a secret order." But you only see this order when you stop trying to control it. You only feel this flow when you stop resisting. This is the essence of spiritual maturity, to know when to act, and when to simply be. It takes courage to do nothing, to sit in stillness while the world screams for attention, to choose peace over urgency, to let life unfold on its own terms. But when you do, something shifts. The right people appear. The right opportunities show up. The pieces start to fall into place. Not because you forced them, but because you became the person they were waiting for. You're no longer magnetizing life from a place of lack. You're resonating from a place of truth. And the truth is this: you don't have to hustle for your worth. You don't have to explain your awakening. You don't have to prove your alignment. You just have to live it. In the stillness, your energy speaks louder than words. In the silence, your vibration becomes the signal. And in the surrender, you finally realize that you were never in control. You were always being guided, always being prepared, always being shaped by something deeper, wiser, and infinitely more powerful than your mind could comprehend. So now that you've remembered who you are, now that you've faced your shadow and come home to yourself, do nothing. Let go. Let it come. Let it unfold. And just watch as everything falls into place. Now you know, not just in your mind, but in your bones, in the still silent places within you that don't need to speak to be heard. This is the secret Jung pointed toward, not with bold declarations, but with quiet reverence. Not a secret meant to be hidden, but one meant to be held. Because once you touch the truth of who you are, you realize it's not meant to be shared with everyone, not because it's fragile, but because it's sacred. You've seen it now, the light and the shadow, the chaos and the order, the wound and the healing. You've walked into yourself and returned not with answers, but with presence, and presence, dasum, is enough. You don't need to explain your peace. You don't need to convince anyone of your growth. You don't need the world to understand what you've become. Because when you truly know, when the knowing has rooted itself deep in your soul, your life begins to speak louder than your words ever could. This is the quiet power of the awakened. They move differently. They speak less, but mean more. They radiate calm in a chaotic world. Not because they've figured everything out, but because they've stopped pretending. Carl Jung's legacy isn't just about psychology. It's about truth. Truth that lives in symbols, in dreams, in silence, and in you. He taught us that becoming whole isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you've always been. And once you remember, you don't shout it from rooftops. You don't post it for likes. You live it quietly, confidently, completely. So if you're on this path, if something inside you has begun to stir, to shift, to awaken, guard it, honor it, let it grow in silence. Because in a world addicted to noise, silence is revolutionary. In a world full of masks, authenticity is rare. And in a world that constantly asks you to be someone else, becoming your true self is the most radical thing you can do. So walk gently, speak less, trust more, and above all, remember this: you don't need to tell the world you've changed. The world will feel it, and that is enough.